Thank you for joining us for Helping Seniors Radio. Join us live every Wednesday at 12 noon on the Space Coast's 90.3 FM, WEJF Radio, and or online at wejf.net. Now let's join this week's Helping Seniors Radio program, already in progress.
So the two big ones and the most important, I think.
Yeah, and now let me, if it's okay, it's the same thing. We almost answer a question and cause another question. Right. So if we don't know what a power of attorney is, because I can't tell you how often I run into people, we don't really understand what even terms like that mean. So let's take those, if we can, one at a time. Durable power of attorney means?
So a durable power of attorney is a document that you sign that allows someone to make legal and financial decisions for you. And they're enormous. There are about 15 pages in our office. And the state of Florida has very specific rules for the durable power of attorney, and that document also dies at death. Versus the healthcare surrogate is everything medical. So in our office, we put everything legal and financial in one document. Again, it's very extensive. It's over 15 pages, wow. And then everything medical in a separate document. Where some states kind of mush them together. Yeah. In our office, we split them apart, and for many reasons, mostly because of just the amount of different legal things that have to be in each of those documents separately. So it'd be a pretty daunting document to mush them all together. And sometimes we want different people to make legal and financial decisions versus medical. So it's a great reason to pull them apart as well.
As we talk about this kind of paperwork, people in this modern age, we think we're so clever because we're going to go out online and we're going to Google, we need some paperwork. Mom's right. going to the hospital. And we think we can just do it ourselves, the same as we would do a food order on, right. On our smartphone or something. But I've known you long enough, Amy, and have heard from you and a lot of the people in your office, like that can lead to big trouble.
It can lead to big trouble. I see all the time documents that are written in a different state, or the kid was a New York resident and mom and dad are Florida residents, and they don't just work across state lines. And Florida about 10 years ago changed the rules drastically. And so Florida now has these things called superpowers. Uh-huh. And you have to initial the superpowers in order to be able to act on some of the document. Yeah. And generally, from what I've seen, all of the superpowers have to do with future Medicaid planning and possibly VA planning. So we could have a 4-year conversation on just the Medicaid loopholes.
Yes.
But all of the loopholes in Florida generally are one of the superpowers. So if I get hired later to be a Medicaid or to do a Medicaid application for someone, if the superpowers are not initial to create some of the fancy trusts we have to do and things like that, a lot of times the only alternative then is guardianship. And guardianship started over, $7,000 in most offices. So the power of attorney isn't a simple document, but it's a lot cheaper than the $7,000 guardianship. And that is the alternative to not having a rock solid, durable power of attorney. And we see it all day long in our office.
Yeah. I'm going to bring Jennifer Barton into this conversation because you see this a lot too. First of all, we live in a county that just keeps expanding. It's like almost bursting at the seams these days with the number of people who are moving into Florida, like on a weekly basis. But I know that's one of the things that you're always careful when you sit down, because you provide, your company is really cool. You hire seniors to help seniors in their homes. And what a great concept, because you're getting somebody who has a little bit, age-wise, understands a little bit more what the senior's going through, probably has a lot of experience in caregiving and things like that just along the way. And it makes a really good combination. But now with the people that are coming in from out of state, left and right, I know one of the first things you do when you sit down with a family and you're starting to organize how you might be able to help them is you kind of like run through this checklist, and you're always asking about these kind of documents.
Oh, absolutely. When, we sit down at the kitchen table and we're talking to the family, we ask about those documents. Not that we're necessarily going to even do anything with them, but we know how important that they are. So we'll ask, mom and dad, the senior, if they do have a DNR, if they've got the power of attorney. And oftentimes I will then kind of look at the kids, because poor mom and dad are starting to feel picked on. I'll look at the kids and say, do you have yours? Because anybody over 18 really should have that done. They really are important. And I was thinking as you two were talking earlier, that I have heard this saying, well, something's better than nothing. Like, okay, I'm just going to go on the internet and pull something. And that's not true. In this case, that is really not true. You can actually do, and Amy can probably attest as more harm than good by just grabbing something off of the internet and putting it in writing. That and especially in this case, that is not true. You really do need to go to someone who, and not only, and I'm sorry to all the attorneys out there, but not any old attorney either.
Right.
You do need to go to someone who specializes in these things, because Amy's been doing this for a couple years now. So
Only 19. So.
You have seen what's gone right and what's wrong over the years, and how those loopholes can affect things. So she's shored up all of those loopholes. So, I mean, going to someone who really knows what they're doing is very important, especially in this case, because we see it. We don't, while we're not in there acting as the power of attorney and we're not doing the medical, we have seen the cases where, that paperwork was not done. And the kids can't talk for mom and dad, even though they should be and want to be, and mom and dad want them to. They can't legally because they don't have this paperwork, and that's heartbreaking.
I think there's a misconception here as well, that if you've been married 50 or 60 years, you automatically get to make legal and medical decisions and financial decisions for your spouse, and that is so not true.
Yeah, you're right.
And we see that all day long. I'm amazed at the number of people who get an early diagnosis of a dementia or Alzheimer's and don't go to an attorney to kind of get these documents in place. And it's too late after there's an incapacity. And guardianship is not a pretty thing to have to go through. And so if you can get just a couple of documents to avoid that whole potential, which can cost thousands and thousands of dollars in legal fees, as well as you have to go to court on an annual basis, just do the darn documents. But there's also attorneys who don't practice elder law that don't understand how many things need to be put in the document. So we've had to go through the guardianship situation, because even though there was a great attorney do a great power of attorney, he missed a sentence or two. And so when I got hired to do Medicaid, I could not do it because of that missing sentence.
Wow.
And it cost the family about $20,000 at the end of the day because of the missing sentence. So again, don't go to your neighbor who's maybe a family law attorney if your parent is elderly, because elder law is a science in and of itself. And again, just like you, Jennifer, we see it all day long, and I keep preaching it. I do seminars on these documents, and people still like, no, I'll just get it offline, or my attorney in New York will do it, or my neighbor is a bankruptcy attorney. It's not the same, and the consequences are just astronomical if you don't do it, as well as you've now got Brevard County in your business, because if you have to go through guardianship, even husband and wife, all of their joint assets are then analyzed by the judge. Wow. Versus with a power of attorney, you just, go on about your business. I mean, the financial companies will still inspect it and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, but it's a lot cheaper to go ahead and get the stuff done in advance. And I see a lot of documents even written out at the Air Force Base that are free, that are sometimes flawed. And so I understand that costs money, and I know going to an attorney is sometimes daunting, but if you don't go, the consequences can be really, really expensive.
And I think there's a lot of peace of mind. Once you have that paperwork done, maybe it's not fun to do, but once it's done, you really do have peace of mind. And that's, personally speaking, I'm not worried, Kerry. Mom and dad have been well taken care of as far as their paperwork, because somebody sitting next to me actually did it.
Yay.
So I know, when the time comes, we're in good shape, and I don't have to worry about those things.
Well, and generally the kids are so upset and emotional because mom and dad are having an emergency or a medical crisis, and the last thing they want to do is, oh, what do you mean I need a healthcare surrogate to make a medical decision? Or what do you mean I can't pay their HOA fees because I can't get into their bank account? There's other things that the kids need to worry about, and medically taking care of their parents is number one. How is the electric bill going to be paid should be, number 10 or something. And so there's ways to just sit down and talk about all of the family members, making sure all the kids are involved if they want to be, or excluded if they need to be. But it's every family that walks in our door is very different. And our job, and that's why I try to only hire nice people. That's like the first question in the interview. Are you nice? Because I can't teach you to be nice. I could teach you to do anything else, but you don't know who's going to walk in your door, and you don't know what kind of crisis they're in and what stage of the crisis. So earlier this week, I had 2 kids, one on the phone, one flew in, and mom and dad are mid-80s, no legal documents in place at all.
Wow.
And dad has probably stage 7 of 10 Alzheimer's.
Oh, dear Lord.
And I'm like, what am I supposed to do other than guardianship? And so we're trying to get around not doing that. But I'm like, where were you guys 5 years ago? 5 years ago, he could have signed legal documents, and it's a crisis. And the poor wife has been trying to do everything she can to care for this fellow.
Sure.
Been married, I think, 60-something years, and it's just sad, So
It's you don't know what you don't know, unfortunately,
Yeah.
and then it comes back to bite you.
Well, and it's always, I've been married 65 years. I don't know why I have to do any of this.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, maybe 50 years ago that was the case. I don't know. I wasn't practicing law then. But in today's world, especially in Florida, there's so much elder fraud that the state of Florida is trying to put all of these procedures in place. If you've tried to use a power of attorney at a bank, you have to jump through so many hoops now, and it has to be approved by their home office. And so they're trying to, slow down the elder fraud, even though we see it on a daily basis. But just go to an elder law attorney, and we're designed to be a nicer batch of attorneys, generally. We wake up nice. And so, go see someone who actually knows the ramifications of having a bad durable power of attorney in place. And it's thousands of dollars and headache and going to court. And that's for the rest of their lives. It's not just a one-time court thing. It's every year for the rest of their lives. They have to go to court, all because they didn't come to an elder law attorney and get a power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate in place.
That's actually the point that, Jennifer, I think you commented on it, but Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director, has this expression. She says, how do you know what you don't know? And in this case, what you don't know could really, really harm you, because what I know, I've had the privilege of doing radio and TV shows with Amy for many years now, and there's you can go check those out, by the way. Lots of great resources with you and some of the attorneys in your office. There's everything. There's resources on trust. There's resources on guardianship. There's a great show I remember we did called Do I Put My Kids on the House Title, and things like that. There's all these things, and when you make a step and you don't know what you're doing, the problem is you don't really know that you put yourself in harm's way until something happens, and then you realize not only are you behind that 8 ball, but you're so far behind it, it's really a big problem. And that's, I think, Amy, why you're always busy trying to educate the community, to let them know you need to do this, because you walk in and you say, well, I think I had this done right. There's no chance for a do-over based on that particular situation.
The do-over is guardianship, and guardianship, again, is very expensive. And I can preach all day long, but what happens is, the kids say, well, I will help you pay your electric bill, put my name on your bank account, and all kinds of horrible things happen after that. And the bankers push it, and I get so frustrated with bankers because there's a better way to do it.
Yeah.
The durable power of attorney, if you give your child the power of attorney, they can write checks on your account without being an owner of the account. And so when we look at Medicaid, which is like the step after the power of attorney and things like that, that's a gift. And so adding your kids' names to deeds, that's a one-way street. If your daughter gets divorced and you put her name on your house is up for grabs in her divorce. And again, the durable power of attorney allows your kids to do all of these things legally while you're alive without them owning anything. And that is, the Medicaid 101 is stop adding your kids' names to ownership of anything. Mm-hmm. The durable power of attorney allows them to do everything that you're wanting them to do without the ownership, without getting in penalties and worrying about your kid getting divorced and those kinds of things.
Right, because even the first part of what you're saying is, let's assume that the kids don't go, well, I need a little extra help this month from mom's checking account. Let's just even put that aside. But as you've taught us along the way, it could be a big problem, because if now we have to apply for Medicaid or we're going to look at VA benefits, there's that look back period. And so all of a sudden, all that stuff gets scrutinized. And if you've done these things, maybe with good intentions, they're going to get the house anyway when I'm gone. So, but now you may have really tripped yourself and your family up because you just didn't do this the right way the first time.
Well, and you may have 2 or 3 children that you want to inherit the house. And if you put just one child's name on the house, and that person's married, generally the daughter-in-law is not going to let them give the house back to their siblings after death,
Yeah.
So we see so many things, and I think the saddest is when a parent comes in and says, oh, well, I had a paralegal put my daughter's name on my house, and now I want to take her name off, take it off. And I'm like, it's a one-way street. She has to agree to take it off, and that is really common. In my law firm, we're not allowed to add kids' names to deeds, period. I mean, we've just seen so many negative things. We have a policy, and there's no reason, unless the kid pays for the house, if they're buying the house or they're living with you and, they've done improvements and things, then we'll do it. But generally, that's just such a no-no on a million different reasons. I hear all day long, too, is like up north, because on the Medicaid side, and no, we're not talking about Medicaid, but back to the same subject, other states will take your home on the Medicaid side.
Oh, wow.
Excuse me. So that's why they would add names to deeds. Well, they don't do that in Florida.
Right. Because you have to understand that this stuff goes state by state, right? So that each state, what you might have been used to when you lived up in Illinois or New Jersey or wherever you may be originally from, it's a different world here. And actually, Florida, at least as I follow it, has some pretty good protections if you set things up the right way.
Right. Florida, we have all kinds of loopholes in the Medicaid law, and we're very generous. I haven't seen another state as generous as Florida for Medicaid for seniors. And generally, your homesteaded house, your car, in most instances, an IRA are all saved from the Medicaid side. So don't add your kids' names to any of those things, especially cars, because of the liability. But again, I'm originally from Ohio. My grandmother's house was lost because she was in a nursing home for many, many years.
Oh, wow.
It was just the old, family farm kind of stuff in Appalachia. But here, there's just so many loopholes. I do an estate planning seminar, and I always put in pink what is exempt from Medicaid, and people are blown away the amount of exempt assets in Florida on the Medicaid side. But that's back to the power of attorney. If you have a durable power of attorney, there's no reason to add your kid's name to anything as an owner, and it's the ownership that seems to blow everything up, to include families.
Yeah.
I had one daughter get her name on mom's house. There was 3 other kids, and the 3 other kids were just livid, and the daughter would not take her name off the house. So
wow.
Nothing I can do.
We're talking with elder law attorney Amy B. Van Fossen of the Law Office of Amy B. Van Fossen. We're going to be moving into our mid-show break, but we're going to continue the conversation. But I want to make sure, because you do a lot of seminars where you guys are very generous with your time to help people really get the lay of the land. If somebody wants to reach the office and find information or a schedule of seminars upcoming, how do they do that?
Well, you can call our office, 321-345-5945, or our seminars are posted on our website, and it's the amybvanfossen.com.
Okay.
And they're listed on a regular basis. And we're also in, I believe, Florida today on the weekends.
Okay, good. And Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, I know you're always looking to hire great seniors, and then you also provide great service for seniors. If somebody's interested in either one of those two things, or maybe the other thing we'll talk about a little bit, you're also electronic caregiver, which is a whole thing by itself. How do people reach your office?
So I can be reached at 321-722-2999, and we're especially looking for a caregiver right now in Melbourne Beach. So if there's anybody down in that area, we would love to hear from them.
All right. Thank you, Jennifer Barton. We'll be back on the second half of the Helping Seniors radio show coming up in just a few moments. Stay tuned.
And you're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard. Our time is 12:33. I'm John Harper. Let's get back to more of the program as I reintroduce the host of Helping Seniors of Brevard and the executive director of the organization. Here's Kerry Fink.
Thank you, John Harper. Always good to be on the radio Wednesdays, 12 noon. We're back for the second half of our lunchtime gathering right here on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And welcome back online, WEJF.net too. And also, for those that are continuing along in the podcast, we appreciate you being here. Like, share, all those things that they tell you to do on social media. Help get this information out, because as a Florida nonprofit, when Joe Steckler, our president and founder, organized us, the whole thing was getting information in the hands of seniors and families that are going to help make things better along the way. You never know exactly what you're going to run into, but Joe's a big proponent of a thing called an aging plan. We actually call it, or kind of euphemistically, and maybe to just make it a little bit less intimidating, say, let's get your ducks in a row. And one of the things that we've learned as an organization as we pump this information out to the best of our abilities, it's why we do the radio, it's why we broadcast 4 times a day on Space Coast Government TV, it's why we have the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, all these different places that you can, the website, helpingseniorsofbrevard.org, where you can access TV, radio, all the stuff, including the print articles we do every month in the center section of Senior Scene magazine. All that is designed for one purpose, and that's to get you informed, educated, and connected to resources that will make a difference as you go along. But one of the corollaries that we've learned along the way, Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, who's one of our excellent guests today. I called them rock stars at the top of the show, and I still will call you guys that. And also elder law attorney Amy B. Van Fossen, who has not only one of the fastest growing elder law firms in the area, but also recognized in the Florida Today Best of the Best in this category. So kudos to you for that as well. But the point I was getting after is we have this corollary to this get your ducks in a row thing, which we call don't try this on your own. And the point of that is there's a great tendency, like whether it's trying to get the right help at home for mom and dad when you know that they're having trouble making it. You know, people will go out and they'll fish a phone number off of a bulletin board they saw down at the grocery store and call somebody who's not insured, not licensed, no background check, send them into mom's home, and then freak out when something goes awry. And the same thing like we were talking in the first part of the show with you, Amy, is like these people, maybe they think they're smart, they're an engineer, so they go online, they download the form, they get it all dolled up and ready to go, and then they find out when something's happened, they are so far off the mark. It's disastrous, you know. I just grab that and run with it because I think it's where we're going.
Well, we are surrounded by a lot of engineers in Brevard County, so that is very common that an engineer will pull something off the internet and have a friend notarize it for their parents and think they're covered. And they're missing things. And again, the missing things, the missing sentences is what throws mom or dad into guardianship. And I know they're brilliant people, but I don't do engineering for a living, and they don't practice law for a living. And honestly, elder law is just a very subset. I mean, we're just an interesting little group of people that really get into the nitty-gritty of what the parents have to have, what they need, because we work with, you know, folks like Jennifer, and they're trying to help, you know, these seniors, and we realize the legal documents are flawed for whatever reason. And we're just, I mean, people ask me what I do for a living, and I tell them I fix problems all day long.
That's it.
You know, it's not any sexier than that. I fix problems, and you can help your kids. Your kids are already going to be super emotional, but you can help your kids by having really good documents in place, and they're not all the same. And I can't stress that enough. If you have documents written in another state, some things will have to be rewritten. Some things can stay the same. Mm-hmm. But the durable power of attorney absolutely has to be rewritten. And if it's not probably within 5 years old, it would absolutely have to be rewritten in Florida.
Yeah. And, you know, that's the point. It's like, why on earth would you want to try to become an attorney in your spare time and try to figure this out? Because you're at the very best, you're going to make tons of mistakes.
Right.
Whereas it's pretty inexpensive to just sit down and get it right the first time. And Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors, I wanted to bring that same theme to bear, because a lot of times people say, well, you know, I know a lady from church or something is going to come in and help mom, or, you know, or like I said, worse yet, they just find somebody, you know, friend of a friend said, oh, I know this lady who can help, but there's nothing that backs all that up. And yet that's one of the things that you see so often that could be very, bringing the wrong person into your home is probably more hurtful than helpful sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. You know, unfortunately, we have come in after the fact on several occasions where they've hired somebody off the street, as we say, and they were not background checked, and there was no insurance, there was no company to go back on. One lady here in Melbourne was an opera singer in her early career. So she had beautiful statues and antique lamps and pictures, just, you know, amazing things in her home apparently. But by the time we got there, there was nothing left.
Oh, dear Lord.
Unfortunately, the kids were from out of town and they had some medical emergencies themselves, so they weren't able to get down for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And when they got down here, they realized not only, you know, did the caregiver take everything out of the house of any value, but they hadn't been coming in. You know, it was mom
Lord.
finally saying, you know, I haven't seen so-and-so recently. Is she coming back? That they realized, oh my goodness. So they got down here and realized mom hadn't been being taken care of. She had been left alone for quite a while. Thankfully, neighbors were coming in and taking care of her. And unfortunately, Mom did have dementia, so they didn't want to put her through a court case. So that person's out there doing it to someone else.
Yeah, it's like the vultures pick the bones clean and move along. And Amy, I know you see like after effects of that a lot too.
Well, I'm amazed at how many people are out there doing that to the seniors, number one, and I'm amazed at how many people where we kind of catch them and they keep stealing more and more stuff.
Yes,
it's like they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and then they go back for 2 handfuls the next time, and we have seen hundreds of thousands of dollars disappear. And it is, the lady who cleans my house, she's going to come and help Mom grocery shop, and we gave her a debit card. And the stories just go on and on and on. And I'm always saying, please get a reputable company to come in that is licensed and insured like Jennifer's. And it is amazing. And I know kids are busy, and I know family dynamics can be complicated. But somebody needs to be looking out after these people.
Yeah, Absolutely. Jennifer, I was going to say that because we had this conversation, especially a lot during the COVID period of time when even kids who really do care were trying to get down here and see Mom and Dad every quarter or every couple of weeks or whatever the case is. And you really became so important, and still are, because you're kind of like that pipeline of what's going on, because you're in there, you see what's going on, you see when it's getting a little too much for the level that things are at, and you really are. Joe has always talked about finding the right level of care so that it's affordable at the right time, and that you're not buying more care than you need until such a time you need it. And this is really kind of like the dynamic that you're used to operating in, is helping families to find that right spot.
Right, and advocating for the senior if they do need more. So we are often the eyes and ears for the family because they're not here; they're somewhere else in the country. So we will call, text, email. We have a family portal that they can go on and they can see their parents' schedule. They can see the caregiver. There's a little picture of the caregiver and a biography of who they are. And then after every service, we upload the service record so that they can see what Mom did today, where they went, doctor's appointment, what they ate, so that they can kind of see on a day-to-day basis what's going on with Mom down here. But anytime we have a concern, we're always reaching out to the family, especially that power attorney, to say, hey, we have some concerns. This is what we think, and advocating for that client to make sure that they have the best possible care. And sometimes that's us, more hours with us, but sometimes that's the next level up with a hands-on care, or maybe that's assisted living facility. But we're going to be very honest about that.
That's one of the things I think is also so important, is like, because, each of you are like at the top of your respective industries, and you're always studying the trends. You're keeping up with what's going on. I know, Jennifer, you have a program called Electronic Caregiver that's almost like a whole. Sometimes people use it just by themselves, but sometimes it adds on to the care that you guys are already providing. But you guys are in a position where you really know how to make sure it's not just somebody ordering something off the internet. Let me strap this around Mom's wrist kind of thing. You guys really know how to make all that work.
Right. We actually take it out from the office, go set it up, test it, make sure that the person knows exactly how to use it, and what they can do with it. We can program into it. So it's more than just a help I've fallen and I can't get up button.
Yeah.
It's a personal safety device. We kind of have to get over that. I'm saying that tongue in cheek because we need to get over that. I don't need that, attitude. All of us, I have taken a fall.
I was going to say, I think I need one.
Yeah, where I thought, oh my gosh, I should have had this because I'm home by myself. But we can program it to do a medication reminder or a blood pressure reminder. We can set it up that there is a perimeter if the person goes outside that perimeter, or if maybe they're not up by 10 o'clock and moving around. So the technology anymore is amazing, and we need to take advantage of it because the goal really is to keep that person at home safely, as independent as possible. So we're using that technology to be able to do that. And I love it because it allows them to go take a walk through the neighborhood or go take a walk through Wickham Park, and God forbid there's an accident, something happens, they take a fall, they can press the button and they're going to come out into the middle of Wickham Park. They'll know exactly where they are because of the GPS satellite system that's involved.
Yeah, it's Jennifer Barton with Seniors Helping Seniors. If somebody's interested, like I said, there's 3 reasons somebody might want to get in touch with you. One could be just what we're talking about, electronic caregiver. The other might be, I need some help at home. Or as we talked about before the break, maybe I love it how you put it. So you look for somebody with the heart of a volunteer who doesn't mind taking a paycheck. But so maybe is somebody looking to give back and do something important while having a great job doing it? How do they reach you?
So we can be reached at 321-722-2999. And of course, we're online too, seniorshelpingseniors.com/Brevard.
Yeah. So, I was thinking as we're having this conversation, you said something about comfort and peace of mind. And I'm thinking too, Amy, that's so much of the important part of somebody coming to your law office and getting things. I've had the personal privilege of talking with a lot of the people that, we would call them testimonials, people who came to your office and maybe they were putting this off for a long time. And what I heard from every single one of them I talked about is I felt so good because I went through the process. I thought it was going to be daunting. They led me through like step by step. This is what you need to go home and bring. Doesn't matter. Don't stress yourself out. But these are the things. We'll get them together over time. And they said they left with like a binder book that had everything, all the notes in it, really well organized. And they just felt just the peace of mind that they got from all of that.
We hear that a lot, and I think the idea is that when we do an estate plan, which is a part of, or the durable power of attorney and the healthcare surrogate is a part of that plan, and we put everything in a binder, whether it's wills or trust or whatever, but I jokingly tell clients, when you hire me, you're stuck with me for life. And I said, you can absolutely fire us at any time. My job is to hopefully do a good enough job so you keep coming back, and we will have kids call and say, I'm not sure if mom is aging well, or we're not sure if she's still safe at home, and we recommend companies like Seniors Helping Seniors because everyone wants to stay home as long as possible. They're so nervous about going to assisted living. And there's ways to sort of do like the Band-Aid approach where let's extend that period of time that they are independent in their homes. And, they've been next door to their neighbors for 30 or 40 years and they watch the kids grow up and all of that stuff. So there are definitely great companies in Brevard County to allow them to age in place. But usually step one for us is getting a good estate plan in place, making sure it makes sense, make sure the kids are on board, involving them if we have to or need to. But just helping them through the aging process. 50 years ago, grandma went to a granddaughter's house and she stayed in the back bedroom and they cared for her and that was the end of it. Well, today, we're all from somebody else. We're all split. And I think that my job is to say, okay, what is this aging plan? What does this look like? What if mom can no longer care for dad or vice versa? And often the well spouse dies before the not well spouse. And then what's plan B? What's plan C? What's plan D? And we just go through all these different plans. And I do a seminar often on estate planning and some other things, but that's one of the slides is what is the family plan? I mean, it doesn't always make sense for mom and dad to go back to, northern New York in the snow. I mean, they've been in Florida for 40 years and their church is here, their doctors are here, their friends are here, their support system is here. And so there's great companies like Jennifer that says, that we can allow them to stay home a lot longer and safely. And the kids can, they've been busy raising kids usually. And now their kids are, the grandkids are now out of the house. They have a little bit more time for mom and dad sometimes. But it's a great resource to be able to have good quality companies here that we like to refer to. And we, of course, as long as mom and dad are safe, we don't really care where they live. But if they're not safe, then we've got to move them. And that is always our thing. But we try to, I say I'm in the business also of helping families go through the aging process. So step one is a good estate plan, but then maybe there are medical needs. Maybe there is an accident or an illness where we have to go and look at public benefits. And so we just hold their hands, all the way through the end.
Yeah, one of the things, expression that's always stuck with me that you said, most people come in your office and they're concerned for mom or dad or whoever that loved one is. And, it's probably the first or second time maybe in their entire life that they're confronting a lot of these decisions and choices. And yet you're like, this is what we do 20, 30, 40 times a week. Yeah. So the whole point is, why on earth would you be trying this on your own? And I think a great place to jump in is because you guys are really kind of prolific with the seminars and things, and you encourage people to come out because it doesn't cost a thing, right?
No, the seminars are free, and if you come to a seminar, you also get a free consultation. So when people are asking about consultations and fees like that, is we give you a certificate to come back. It might be, we have 5 attorneys total.
Right.
So it may be with a different attorney. I usually get the messier cases. So if it involves, Medicaid and VA, because we're VA accredited, 3 of the 5 attorneys are VA accredited. Wow. So I usually get those, but sometimes I do the normal things as well. But we've got 21 staff members. We're all girls at this minute. It just not by design, but we're all 21 females, and we actually all get along. But we're here just to help families through the aging process. And so step 1 is get your darn durable power of attorney and your healthcare surrogates in place. That's like the beginning, and we walk you through the rest of it. We often will help families find maybe skilled nursing where medically they're not eligible to be home anymore because of medical need, and we'll find the appropriate skilled nursing, and then try to figure out how to pay for it as well. So we help you age. Whatever that is.
Good. That's elder law attorney Amy B. Van Fossen with the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. So if somebody is interested in hey, I want to find out when the seminars are, where they're going to be, or just get some more information, how do they reach you? What's the best way?
They can call us at 321-345-5945, or our website is amybvanfossen.com. And we are also in Florida today, I believe 3 times a week, and the seminars are listed in the old-fashioned paper. On Sunday, we're in the old-fashioned paper, and we got a teal logo. So I've been in there forever. I used to work at Florida Today in 1996.
Wow.
So when I graduated law school, I'm like, you know what? I think I'll start advertising, and I've been in there ever since.
Wow. Well, and I just want to kind of cap this out by saying we always talk about don't try this on your own. And one of the things you'll find either between calling Jennifer and her team or Amy Van Fossen and her legal staff, you guys, it's fascinating to me. You guys are like the nicest people in the world, and everybody you hire is like the nicest people in the world. And yet they're still like cutting edge competent, which is, it's like they can do their jobs very effectively, but they're also kind people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I can teach people to do almost anything, but I can't teach them to be kind. And that's part of the interviewing process. We also personality test as well. But we are working with some very difficult situations. And if you can't be kind to the 90-year-old lady who was married 70 years, whose husband just passed away, then we don't really have a place for you in our office.
Makes sense.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna grab the last couple of minutes to talk helping seniors and our big fundraiser. It's called the Helping Seniors Car Raffle. Jennifer,
It's called Dodge versus Chevy.
It's because Jennifer is all about the Dodge. It's just one of the cars you can win. Talk about the car raffle, Jennifer.
Oh my goodness, it's getting closer and closer. I'm excited. So it is in October at the American Muscle Car Museum. Is the night of the grand drawing. But you do, as you say, have to be in it to win it. So you can win. This year, for the very first time, one of 5 cars you get to choose from. Not just 4 this year. You can choose the Chevy Camaro, the Dodge Challenger. Of course, that's the one you want.
Yes.
Mitsubishi Outlander. For the very first
good.
time.
Correct.
A Mazda Miata or a Kia Sportage.
That's right.
Do I have them all?
That was fine. That was
so
fine.
you get to choose. Winner gets to choose the vehicle. And if you have a ticket, you get to go to the American Muscle Car the night of the grand drawing. You see Mark's amazing collection, and it is different every year. Of course, we go every year, and every time we go in, things are a little bit different. Cars are moved around. There are new cars. There's cars in between the aisles now, and more cars elevated. I mean, it's just amazing. And the history of the cars, even if you're not a car enthusiast, the history behind all of the different cars, signs, amusements that he's got in there. It's a great night out. We always have food, beverages.
Yeah.
And it really helps helping seniors.
Yeah.
I've been part of helping seniors now for 10, almost 11 years. And it is that little engine that could. Yeah. It's an amazing group of volunteers that run that senior helpline that takes so many phone calls. And my goal for this year really is to be able to hire a part-time person to help Nancy Deerdorf to take those calls. I saw her this morning, and she was running into the office, and she closed the door and she said, "I'm sorry, I don't mean to be rude, but I've got so many phone calls to get back to people."
Unbelievable.
So that would be my goal. Is we need to raise enough money that we can hire a part-time person so we can help more seniors.
Yeah, and Amy, you guys through the law office, you helped us last year. You were one of the sponsors of our big event, and I don't know. Have I asked you which car you would pick if you could win in the Helping Seniors car raffle? Do you have a favorite?
I keep getting asked that, and I really don't. And I know that's a sin in this group of people, but I'm all about safety because I've had a couple of wrecks in my life. So whatever's big. That's it.
Big and safe.
Big and safe, yeah.
Okay.
I'm boring that way.
Well, it's all good. But listen, I mean, it's a whole event that night. I always tell people, so you get a ticket for $25, 5 tickets for $100 donation. And that does 3 things. It, number one, gives you the good feeling for helping us keep our work going and helping seniors. Quite frankly, we can't do it if you won't help us. We can only go as far as you allow us to go. As Jennifer was saying, we really do need to hire some more help just because the calls are just coming in at a rate that, it is a little overwhelming. Nancy was just using this yesterday. She said, I used to tell people I'll call you back as soon as I hang up. Then she got to the point, I'll try to call you back. You will get a call back. But what's happened is that time, has gone from, I'll call you back this afternoon to I may have to call you the next day. And now a lot of times I'm calling you back, but I got so many in queue. So we got to keep, that's what your donation does, is helps us do that. The second thing, though, for you is it gives you a shot at a new car, and you get to pick the car. Last year, our winner was local from West Melbourne. She's driving around this really cool, blue Camaro. And Jennifer, as you know, on the Dodge team, Karen Hoodless won back in 2019, and she has that car looking just as great as the day she won it. And then in between, the guy who won it, David Odahowski, he wanted the Kia Sportage. So he's tooling around in that. So this year it could be your turn. You got to decide which car you want to win. But the nicest thing is for your $100, you and 4 friends come to the museum that night. I go, you can't get pizza and go see a Barbie movie for under $100.
That's true.
I'm just saying. And here you're going to have a night at the museum. Mark's collection is world class. It's like 400 plus cars. And not only that, he's such a great guy. He springs for the food, the beer, the wine. So when you're making that donation, you are literally just helping us keep things rolling. How do you get your tickets, Jennifer?
You can go on helpingseniors.carraffle.com.
Perfect.
You can come to our new office at the Senior Resource Center on Apollo. We would love to sell you a ticket.
Yes.
You can call the Senior Helpline, 321
473-7770.
I always want to, my number is so close. I have to really stop and think about it so I don't accidentally give out the wrong number.
Yeah, and you can get them at any of the Boniface Hires dealerships. So you say, hey, I want to see what that Mitsubishi looks like. I want to see what that Camaro looks like. You go by any of AJ Hires' great dealerships. Joe's funny. He goes, yeah, AJ and I started this back in the mid-'90s because that's how Joe got money to build the Joe's Clubs and all those things. This is really what keeps us going. Amy, you guys have tickets at your office.
Yes, we do.
So you can get tickets at the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen. So real quick, because we're about out of time, if somebody wants to call the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen and follow up on any of this, the number is
321-345-5945.
And Jennifer, if they want to call Seniors Helping Seniors, the number is
321-722-2999.
And Kerry Fink, we have something special for the birthday girl right now.
Uh-huh.
And Kerry Fink, we wanted to say happy birthday to Jennifer Barton. We appreciate her always being with us. And,
absolutely.
She's the best. So happy birthday, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. And thank you guys for being in the studio. It was a great conversation. We'll see you next Wednesday on Helping Seniors Radio, 12 noon. Same station, same time.
Same bat channel.
That's what I was going to say that, but I didn't know that fit.